Good evening, friends. It's been a while since my last video. It was shortly after Christmas, so I hope you all had a great new year and are having an excellent 2011. Things are going well here, no complaints. Tonight's video, I'm going to feature a tobacco which I received quite a while ago, early last year, when I did a trade with Dubinthedam, the legendary video creator here on YouTube. And I sent him some 1792 from Samuel Gwaith, and he sent me a lot of different tobaccos. Actually, he sent me some tobaccos that are only available in Europe that we can't get here in the States. He sent me some Capstan, which I absolutely love. Of course, that's a special tobacco for me because it was the tobacco that J.R.R. Tolkien preferred. And I actually had written to his grandson. I'd heard that Capstan Medium Navy Flake was his preferred tobacco. So I wrote to his grandson and received the kindest reply. And he wrote back and confirmed that that was indeed Professor Tolkien's favorite tobacco, as well as his son Christopher. So I've always kind of enjoyed it. And it's a nice Virginia blend, a nice flake. If you haven't tried it, I'd highly recommend it. Whether or not you like Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, it's a nice tobacco. And he also sent me some Three Nuns, which we can't get over here, which is excellent. And if that wasn't enough, he threw in a couple extra tobaccos, including this tobacco, which is a traditional Dutch pipe tobacco. It's called, I see a little bit of a reflection there. It's called Stad Ootmarsum. And I'm sure I'm totally butchering that, so I apologize to my Dutch friends. My Dutch is not bad, it's non-existent. So again, if anyone would like to comment on the video and let me know how I should be pronouncing it, I'd appreciate it. Maybe Dub himself will pop in and his wife will let me know so that I can become educated on that. On the packet here it says a real old Dutch pipe tobacco. A fine, real old Dutch pipe tobacco. And that's actually translated. And when you open up the packet, it's a 40-gram packet. When you open it up, inside the packet, there's some writing in Dutch. And I popped that into an internet translator. And it turns out, if this is correct, it says, Ootmarsum Town is a real old Dutch natural pipe tobacco. The blend is composed of carefully selected ripe tobaccos. Ootmarsum Town, where smoke is a delight for the true connoisseur. And I guess this is a traditional pipe tobacco in the Netherlands. It's been around a long time. And I've actually had this packet, again, for probably close to a year, because Dub mentioned in his letter to me that this tobacco was traditionally smoked in a clay pipe. So I kind of always had it in the back of my mind that I'd like to get a clay pipe to smoke it in, to kind of go for the most authentic experience possible, and I just hadn't gotten around to doing that. So a few weeks ago, before Christmas, I started looking around on the internet at clay pipes, and turns out, of course, there are a lot of different styles, and there's traditional English styles, colonial American styles, and then I found there was a Dutch style, so I thought that would seem the most authentic. So I decided that was the one I would pick up, and it's called, I believe, what most Americans, including myself until I prepared for this video, I would call a gouda pipe. And I did a little research on the internet, and I'm sure that would give anyone in the Netherlands a laugh. From what I could determine, that probably like gouda would be a more traditional pronunciation. And again, I apologize because I'm sure that's pretty terrible as well. But I picked up this shape of pipe, and it's an interesting shape, very traditional. To me, it almost looks like what I would call a cutty, which actually is a shape I like a lot. For a lot of reasons. I just kind of think it's an elegant shape, even in a briar where I've seen it. It kind of reminds me a lot of some of the pipes that you see Jeremy Brett in the TV series Sherlock Holmes occasionally smokes kind of a longer briar version of this pipe. So I thought, heck, that would seem probably a good pipe to fire the traditional Dutch tobacco up in. This tobacco is very interesting consistency. I'm going to hold some up here so that you can kind of see it. It's extremely finely cut. And it's like almost like a shag, but it sticks together, almost like a Brillo pad. I've never really seen a tobacco with that sort of cut before. So I pulled off a piece and loaded it up in the clay pipe. And I guess with clay pipes that are not glazed like this pipe, they can tend to stick to your mouth when you use them. But a way to avoid that is to wet the pipe. So I kind of give it a little bit there. And of course we're going to have a traditional pipe. It didn't seem to make sense to fire it up with a Corona pipe lighter, so I've got some matches here. So this is my first time smoking a clay pipe, and I've heard that they actually are sometimes used by folks who are blending tobaccos to get a pure tobacco taste, and that they don't impart any sort of character to the leaf as a briar, for instance, might. The pipe actually has a very open draw. Tobacco's sort of dry, not too dry, and it lit easily. Doesn't really appear to need a charring light. Bowl's kind of warm. Interesting. I actually picked up this pipe from a company that actually specializes in providing products for recreators, like folks that do Civil War recreation here in the United States or colonial time recreation. It was actually very inexpensive, a little bit less than I found these types of pipes at the traditional pipe vendors. In fact, it only cost me $8.07 shipped. I have to say, this tobacco is not at all what I expected. Being an old traditional tobacco, I kind of expected it to be harsh or strong, and I don't sense that at all. It's actually quite mild. Not much of a flavor to it, a top note or anything like that I can detect. Seems relatively unprocessed, actually, just kind of a light, interesting tobacco flavor. Doesn't really remind me of a Burley, maybe a light Virginia. Now, if I'm reading the packet correctly, which is obviously not a certain guarantee there, I believe the actual tobacco blend, or the tobacco type, is called Herrenbai, spelled Herenbaai. Now, while I was smoking the blend, I did a little research on the internet, and I found out that Herrenbai, or Bai tobacco, stands for Bay tobacco, and references Maryland, of course, which is the site of the Chesapeake Bay. And that Bay tobacco is a traditional Dutch tobacco made with Maryland tobacco. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because this is a very neutral blend, and Maryland tobacco is a very neutral tobacco, of course. It's often used to kind of cut down stronger tobaccos in blends like Burleys and such. So I could see how this could be a straight Maryland type of tobacco, because it does, as I said, has a very neutral sort of sense and flavor about it. Heron, I did run that through the translator, and interestingly enough, it came up. The only thing I could get was sort of like a gentleman or something. So I don't know if this implies that this is sort of like a gentlemanly Bai tobacco. It kind of goes with that description, the connoisseur, but I have absolutely no idea, obviously. But again, if anyone who's in the know would like to let me know, someone from the Netherlands or elsewhere, I'll annotate the video and we can all learn a thing or two. I know I love to learn anything I can about tobaccos. So again, anything that you'd like to comment on the video would be greatly appreciated. I can't say I'm feeling too much of a nicotine effect. As you see, I've only smoked a bit. Maybe a little. I do tend to like strong nicotine blends. They don't affect me that heavily, and I kind of enjoy them. One of my absolute favorite tobaccos, perhaps if I had to choose just one tobacco, my favorite would be Peterson's Irish Flake, and I certainly feel the nicotine when I smoke that tobacco, but nothing extreme. You know, I've heard a lot of people have reactions where they feel they almost become sick, or they can't sit down. They have to sit down, and even a tobacco like Irish Flake doesn't really affect me that way, though I certainly feel the nicotine. The room note is a light tobacco-y essence, not very heavy either, difficult to describe, but a very kind of light tobacco scent. I don't inhale pipe tobaccos, but I do occasionally, I guess, what some people call snorking or retrohaling, and I just did that. I feel at times that allows me to taste the flavor a little bit more, and it does with this tobacco. It does almost have a bit of a spice to it when you retrohale. It brings out a little bit more of what I'm detecting in the room note. All in all, a very interesting smoke, an interesting experience. So again, I want to thank Piers Dubinthedam for sending it along. It was a little extra surprise in my package, as I'm sure anyone who knows Dub knows he treated me more than fairly in the trade. And I was very grateful to receive the capstan, which I do enjoy. He also sent along a Dutch-made English blend, which I haven't opened, and I probably will be opening soon and doing another video on that. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that as well. So, anyway, that's Stad Ootmarsum, which I believe is just a town in Holland. I looked that up on the web, and in fact, there's if you look at this video, I do have some scenes from that town, which I downloaded, so you can get a little view of that. But anyway, I think I'll conclude this video here. It was kind of an interesting experience. Thanks again, Dub. I really appreciate it. I'm going to sit back and smoke a little more traditional Dutch pipe tobacco in my gouda clay pipe. Have a great night.